Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are going to talk about something that, usually brings to mind backyard barbecues, the 4th of July, maybe a trip to Disney World, or just a warm summer night with the family.
Right.
We are talking about fireworks, but, and there is always a but on this show, we are not talking about the sparkly, happy, ooh and ah kind.
No.
We are talking about what happens when those festive explosives end up in the pages of the Texas Penal Code. We are flipping the script entirely.
That is exactly right. Usually fireworks represent celebration. They are, symbols of freedom and joy. But in the document we have on the table today, they represent obstruction, evasion, and potential violence.
Wow.
We are looking at a very specific legal document where fireworks are treated not as party favors, but as tools of evasion and interference against law enforcement.
So it's a weapon.
It's treated as one. We are looking at a slice of the law where a Roman candle isn't a toy. It's treated essentially as a weapon against the state.
It is a fascinating pivot, taking something designed for joy and legislating it as an instrument of chaos. But before we light the fuse on this topic, and yes, I've been saving that pun.
I had to get one in.
I have to take a quick second to talk to you, the listener.
Yeah.
We love doing this. We love combing through these dense documents, whether it's medical journals, historical records, or, in this case, complex state statutes, to find the nuggets of gold for you.
Wow.
But we cannot do it without your support.
Absolutely. The research takes time, the analysis takes time, and really, your support is what keeps the lights on and the microphones running.
So here is the deal. If you are getting value out of these deep dives, if you love learning with us and having these aha moments, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Right now.
Whatever platform you're on, just tap it. It helps the channel grow, it tells the algorithm we matter, and it lets us keep making these for you. Also, head over to our website to check out more resources and the source material we are discussing today. We have the full text up there if you want to follow along. Okay, housekeeping done. Let's get into the weeds.
Let's do it.
We are looking at Texas Penal Code Chapter 50. Now, I have the PDF right here in front of me, and visually, it is intimidating. It's got that light.
It is classic legal formatting. Courier new font. Serif.
Right?
It looks like it was typed on a typewriter from 1975, even though the law itself is quite modern. It falls under Title 10 of the Penal Code, which is broadly categorized as offenses against public health, safety, and morals.
Okay.
And this specific chapter is just titled, very simply, Fireworks.
Short, sweet, and scary. Fireworks. And our mission today is pretty straightforward. We are going to take this dry, courier new text and dummy it down. We want to translate the legalese into plain English so you understand exactly what constitutes an offense, who the players are, and how much trouble you can actually get into. Because, spoiler alert, it is a lot of trouble. We aren't talking about a ticket for a noise violation here.
No, this isn't a slap on the wrist. We are talking about felonies. We are talking about prison time. And context is important here. This isn't some dusty law from the 1800s that nobody enforces anymore.
This is new.
Very new. This was added by the Acts of 2021, the 87th legislature, and it was recently amended in 2023. This is a reaction to modern events.
Right. And looking at the notes here, that 2023 amendment had a specific effective date of January 1st, 2025. Since we're recording this in January 2026, that amendment has been live for a full year now. So this is current active law we're dealing with.
Exactly. This is the rulebook as it stands today. If you go out tonight and do this, this is the text that determines your future.
Okay, let's start where all good legal documents start. Section 1, setting the stage, or as the document calls it, Section 50.01, definitions.
Of course.
Because you cannot have a law about fireworks if you don't define what a firework is, right? If I light a match, is that a fireworks? If I light a campfire?
Precisely. In law, definitions are everything. If you don't define a term, a defense attorney will drive a truck through that ambiguity.
Oh, for sure.
They will argue that a sparkler isn't a firework, or that a flare isn't a firework. So the state has to be very, very specific to close those loopholes. Definition number 1 in the text is for consumer firework and fireworks.
So, honestly, when I saw this, I was expecting a chemistry lesson.
Yeah.
I was expecting a list of compounds, gunpowder, magnesium, sulfur, nitrates.
The recipe.
Yeah. I thought we'd be reading a periodic table. But that is not what the text says at all.
No, it is not. And this is a classic legislative move, and it's actually quite brilliant in a bureaucratic way.
Half so.
Instead of writing out the chemical formula for a firework, which might change as technology evolves, the Texas Penal Code outsources the definition. It says they have the meanings assigned by 49 CFR section 173.59.
Okay, hold on. We need to stop here. We're reading a Texas state penal code of law for Texas crimes. Why are we suddenly looking at a code that sounds like a robot? What is 49 CFR?
It does sound like a droid, doesn't it?
It really does.
CFR stands for the Code of Federal Regulations. This is the massive, sprawling collection of rules created by the federal government departments and agencies. Specifically, Title 49 covers transportation.
Transportation. We aren't talking about shipping fireworks. We are talking about blowing them up in a street to annoy a cop.
I know.
Why does the Department of Transportation get to decide what a firework is for a Texas criminal case?
It comes down to logistics and expertise. Fireworks are hazardous materials. They have to be shipped on trucks, trains, and planes. So, the Department of Transportation, the DOT, has extremely rigid definitions and testing protocols for what constitutes a consumer firework versus a display firework versus just explosives.
Oh.
They have labs that blow things up to test stability.
Okay, so the feds have already done the homework.
Exactly. Texas is essentially saying, look, we aren't the chemists. We are legislators. We don't have a lab. Go look at what the feds say.
Right.
If the DOT says it's safe enough to ship as a consumer firework, then we will call it a consumer firework. If they say it's an explosive, it's an explosive.
That is actually really smart. It creates a nested doll situation.
Yeah.
You have the state law wrapping around the federal law.
It's a dynamic reference.
Yeah.
Imagine if a new type of firework is invented next year, let's say a laser drone firework.
Sure.
If Texas wrote their own definition, they would have to pass a new bill to include it, which takes months or years.
Right, a whole legislative session.
By referencing the CFR, if the federal government updates their latch on Monday, Texas law effectively updates on Tuesday automatically. No new legislation needed.
It keeps the law agile. It ensures that if a new type of explosive comes onto the market and the feds classify it, Texas law immediately covers it without a session in Austin.
Correct. It plugs the gap before it even opens.
So that covers the what. Now let's cover the who, because this law isn't just about blowing things up. It's about who you are blowing them up around. Definition number 2 is law enforcement officer.
This is critical because the entire chapter hinges on the interaction between a person with a firework and a law enforcement officer. If you just light a firework in an empty field, Chapter 50 doesn't apply.
Right. That's just a different problem.
Yeah, you might be violating a noise ordinance or a burn ban, but you aren't committing this specific felony. It requires an officer to be the target or the audience.
And the text here seems pretty broad. It doesn't just say police.
It is very broad. It says law enforcement officer means a person who is a peace officer under Article 2A.001 Code of Criminal Procedure. That covers your standard beat. Police officers, sheriffs, deputies, constables, state troopers, basically anyone with a badge and a gun employed by the state of Texas or its municipalities.
But it doesn't stop there.
No. It continues with a very specific addition, or a person who is a federal law enforcement officer, as defined by 5 U.S.C. Section 833120.
There is that nested doll again. USC is United States Code.
Correct. So this inclusion is vital. It means this law protects FBI agents, DEA agents, ATF agents, Secret Service, even postal inspectors, if they fall under that federal definition.
Wait, postal inspectors? Seriously?
If they are federal law enforcement officers carrying out an official duty, yes. The United States Postal Inspection Service is actually a federal law enforcement agency. They investigate mail fraud, mail theft.
They carry guns.
They absolutely do. So if you use a firework to mess with a federal agent in Texas, you are violating Texas state law under Chapter 50.
That feels like a way to ensure there are no jurisdictional cracks. You can't say, oh, I wasn't interfering with a Texas cop, I was interfering with a Fed, so this Texas law doesn't apply.
Exactly. It closes the loophole. It says if they are enforcing the law, state or federal, they are off limits for fireworks. It creates a blanket of protection regardless of which agency signs the officer's paycheck.
Before we move to the crime itself, I want to touch on the timeline you mentioned earlier. The footer of Section 50.01 has some dates. Added by Acts 2021, amended by Acts 2023.
Right. This is relatively new legislation. It was introduced in 2021 via House Bill 2366. Then in 2023, House Bill 4504 came along and tweaked it.
And that tweak went into effect January 1st, 2025. Why do these dates matter to the average person? Why should our listener care about the specific day it started?
Well, in criminal law, we have a prohibition against what are called ex post facto laws.
Right.
You can only be prosecuted under the law as it existed when you committed the act. If you did something in 2020 that is described here, you couldn't be charged under Chapter 50 because it didn't exist yet. It wasn't a crime then.
So you can't be punished retroactively.
Exactly. But now, in 2026, we are fully in the era of this law. The grace period is long over. If you light that fuse today, you are playing by these rules.
Got it.
The amendment in 2023 likely tightened definitions or adjusted penalties, signaling that the legislature was paying attention to how the 2021 law was working or not working and decided to sharpen its teeth.
Okay, so we know what a firework is, whatever the feds say it is, and we know who a cop is. Basically anyone with a badge. Now let's get to the meat of the sandwich. Section 50.02, unlawful use of fireworks. This is where the rubber meets the road.
This is the core offense, subsection A.
A person commits an offense if the person explodes or ignites fireworks. Let's stop right there. Explodes or ignites. Why both words?
Words matter. Explodes implies detonation, a bang, a percussive event. Think of an M80 or a firecracker. Ignites implies lighting a fuse or creating a flame. This covers everything from a loud bomb that goes boom to a flare or a fountain that just burns and spray sparks.
So if I light a Roman candle and it's a dud, it doesn't shoot anything out, it just sizzles. I have still ignited it.
Correct. You don't have to successfully blow something up to be liable. The act of ignition is enough. It prevents the defense of, well, Your Honor, the firework was broken, so I didn't technically explode anything.
The fuse went out.
Right. If you lit the fuse, you committed the act.
But, and this is the huge but, lighting a firework isn't illegal on its own. If it were, every New Year's Eve party in Texas would be a mass incarceration event.
We'd all be felons.
We'd be arresting grandmas for holding sparklers. The crime is entirely defined by the intent.
Correct. We call this the mens rea, or the guilty mind. You have to perform the actus reus with a specific goal in mind. The statute lists two specific goals or intents that turn this from a celebration into a felony.
Let's look at intent number 1, subsection A1, with the intent to interfere with the lawful performance of an official duty by a law enforcement officer.
Interfere is the key verb here.
Paint me a picture. What does this look like in the real world? And I want to push back on this interference concept a bit. Interfere feels like a pretty subjective word.
Yeah.
If I pop a confetti cannon 50 feet away and the officer just looks at me, is that interference?
That's a great question, and that's where the courtroom battle happens. The statute says interfere with the lawful performance of an official duty. Just looking at you might not be interference. But let's build a scenario. Okay. Imagine a chaotic scene. Maybe a protest that has gotten heated, or maybe a crime scene investigation at night following a shooting. The police have yellow tape up. They are trying to maintain a perimeter to protect shell casings and evidence.
Okay, so they are working. They have a specific task.
Right. Then someone throws a lit string of firecrackers, those black cats that pop rapidly near the tape or toward the officers.
Maybe they just want to be annoying. Maybe they just want to make noise.
It doesn't matter if they just want to be annoying. Look at the effect. The explosion, the noise, the smoke. It forces the officers to react. They have to flinch. They have to look away from the evidence. They might have to take cover because in the dark, a string of firecrackers sounds a lot like a semi-automatic weapon.
That moment of hesitation,
Yeah.
That's the interference?
Exactly.
Wow.
That disruption. If the officer has to stop directing traffic to deal with you, or if they can't hear their radio dispatch because of the noise, or if they have to leave their post to chase you, that is interference. You have broken the operational security of the scene.
And the text specifies lawful performance of an official duty. Why is that word lawful there?
That is a crucial safeguard for the citizen. It prevents the law from being used if the officer is acting rogue. If an officer is acting unlawfully, say they are off-duty drunk and starting a bar fight, or they are trespassing on your property without a warrant or cause, and you light a firework to scare them off, strictly speaking, this statute might not apply.
Because they aren't performing an official duty.
Right. You might be in trouble for something else, but you aren't interfering with an official duty because their actions aren't lawful or official.
Got it.
But in 99% of cases where you'd see this charged traffic stops, crowd control, arrests, the officer is in uniform, on the clock, doing their job.
So throwing a firecracker to distract a cop, writing you a ticket.
Interference.
Felony.
Setting off a smoke bomb to blind a cop, directing traffic.
Interference.
Felony.
Okay, let's look at intent number 2, subsection A. This one feels like something out of an action movie. With the intent to flee from a person, the actor knows is a law enforcement officer attempting to lawfully arrest or detain the actor.
This is what I call the ninja vanish clause.
The ninja vanish. I love that.
It really is. It describes a scenario where someone is being pursued. The officer says, "Stop, you're under arrest." And the suspect, the actor, in legal terms, lights a firework to create a distraction so they can escape.
It's literally the Batman smoke pellet move. Or throwing a banana peel in Mario Kart, but the banana peel is made of gunpowder.
It is a desperate move, and notice the phrasing. Flee from a person the actor knows as a law enforcement officer.
That word knows stands out to me. How do you prove what someone knows? That's in their head.
It creates a high bar for the prosecution regarding the suspect's knowledge. If the officer is in full uniform driving a marked car with lights flashing, it is pretty easy to prove the actor knew. The jury looks at the video and says, yeah, that's clearly a cop.
But what if it is an undercover cop? What if it's a plainclothes detective in an unmarked car?
That is the tricky part. Let's play this out. Let's say you are doing something shady in an alley at night. A guy in a hoodie runs at you shouting. You don't know who he is. You light a firework to startle him and run away.
A reasonable reaction to being chased in an alley, frankly.
Right. If that guy turns out to be an undercover narcotics officer, your defense attorney is going to argue, my client didn't know it was a cop. He thought he was being mugged. He acted in self-defense.
And because the statute specifically says knows, that defense might actually work for this specific charge.
Exactly. This brings us to the concept of mens rea regarding the victim status. The law effectively protects the citizen who is genuinely scared and running away, preventing them from being treated as a domestic terrorist just because the person chasing them happened to have a badge in their pocket that wasn't visible.
So if the jury has a reasonable doubt about whether you knew it was a cop, you walk on this charge.
On this charge. You might still get nailed for disorderly conduct or generic evasion, but the Chapter 50 felony requires that specific knowledge. It prevents the gotcha prosecution where you are punished for knowledge you didn't have.
It's really interesting how specific the law has to get. It's trying to legislate a state of mind. It asks, why did you light the fuse? And what did you think was happening?
That is the essence of criminal law. It isn't just about the act, it's about the moral culpability of the mind behind the act.
Speaking of culpability, let's talk consequences. We have defined the act. We have defined the intent. Now we need to look at the price tag. Section 3 of our outline covers the ladder of felonies.
And it is a ladder. It starts high and goes higher. There are no misdemeanors here.
Not at all.
This isn't like a noise complaint where you pay a fine and go home.
Right. Subsection B sets the baseline. It says, except as provided by subsections C and D, an offense under this section is a state jail felony.
A state jail felony in Texas is serious business.
For our listeners who might not be legal scholars, what does a state jail felony actually mean in terms of time? Because I think people hear jail and think county jail, like maybe a few weekends or picking up trash on the highway.
That is a dangerous misconception. In Texas, we have a unique category called state jail felonies. It is a hybrid between a misdemeanor and a full prison sentence. It carries a punishment range of 180 days to 2 years in a state jail facility and a fine of up to $10,000.
180 days, that's 6 months. Minimum.
And here's the kicker about state jail in Texas. Unlike prison, where you can get good time or parole relatively early, state jail time is often served day for day.
Wait, so if I get sentenced to a year, I serve a year? No getting out early for good behavior?
It is notoriously difficult to cut time off a state jail sentence. The idea is that it's a short, sharp shock. You are going away. You are sitting in a cell. You are losing your job. You are losing your apartment.
Imagine explaining that to your employer. Hey, I can't come in for 6 months because I lit a Roman candle near a cop car.
Your career is over. You are a convicted felon. That label sticks with you for life. You lose your right to vote. You lose your right to own a firearm. All because you wanted to play a prank or create a distraction. That is the baseline punishment. That is the starting line.
That is terrifying, just for the basic consumer firework offense. But now we climb the ladder. Subsection C introduces the first variable that upgrades the charge.
This is the weapon upgrade, as we called it in the outline.
The text says, an offense under this section that involves any firework that is not a consumer firework is a second-degree felony.
This goes back to that definition in 50.01. Remember, consumer firework is defined by the federal shipping regulations. Those are the things you can buy at a roadside stand, sparklers, fountains, small aerials.
The stuff we're all used to.
Right. They are regulated to be relatively stable and have limited explosive power.
So what falls into the not a consumer firework category?
This is the scary stuff. Professional display fireworks. The big mortar shells you see at a city's 4th of July show that have to be electronically fired. Homemade explosives.
Like if someone takes the powder out of 10 different fireworks and tapes it all together.
Exactly. Or improvised explosive devices, IEDs. If you modify a consumer firework to make it more dangerous, or if you manage to buy professional-grade explosives without a license, you have left the consumer category. You are now wielding something that the Department of Transportation considers a significant explosive hazard.
And if you use one of those to interfere or flee, the charge jumps to a second-degree felony.
And the punishment jumps with it. A second-degree felony in Texas carries 2 to 20 years in prison and a fine up to $10,000.
Whoa. We went from a max of 2 years to a max of 20 years just based on the type of firework.
That is right. The logic is the potential for collateral damage. A consumer firework is dangerous, sure, you might lose a finger, but a professional-grade shell, if that goes off on the ground near a police line, it creates a blast wave, it sends shrapnel.
It's basically a grenade at that point.
It can kill people, it can destroy vehicles. The legislature is penalizing the increased capacity for destruction.
So the hardware matters. But there is one more rung on the ladder, and this one is the absolute peak, subsection D.
This is the harm upgrade.
Notwithstanding subsection C, an offense under this section is a felony of the first degree if, and here comes the trigger condition.
If the offense causes serious bodily injury to a person the actor knows is a law enforcement officer.
Let's stop on serious bodily injury. In Texas law, that isn't just a bruise or a scrape, right? If the cop trips and skins his knee because of the noise, is that serious bodily injury?
No. Serious bodily injury is a specific legal term defined elsewhere in the Penal Code. It generally means injury that creates a substantial risk of death, or causes death, serious permanent disfigurement, or protracted loss or impairment of the function of any bodily member or organ.
Let's get graphic so people understand the stakes.
Okay. If that firework explodes near an officer's face and blinds them in one eye, that is permanent loss of function of an organ, serious bodily injury, first-degree felony.
If it burns them severely enough to require skin grafts,
serious permanent disfigurement, first-degree felony.
If the concussive blast from a large firework causes permanent hearing loss,
that would absolutely qualify as protracted loss or impairment of function, likely a first-degree felony.
And a first-degree felony in Texas.
Yeah.
That is the same category as murder, isn't it?
It is the same category as murder, aggravated sexual assault, and aggravated robbery. It carries a punishment of 5 to 99 years, or life in prison.
Life in prison. For a firework.
For a firework that maimed a police officer, it puts this crime on the highest pedestal of severity. The law is saying, you used an explosive device against an agent of the state and you permanently damaged them. We are going to throw away the key.
There's another condition in subsection D that I want to dig into. It mentions doing this in retaliation or on account of an exercise of official power. This seems different than just interference.
Yes, this is distinct from the interference or fleeing intent. This is the revenge intent.
Unpack that for us.
Retaliation means you aren't trying to escape right now. You aren't trying to stop them from doing their job right now. You are punishing them for something they already did.
Give me a scenario.
Let's say an officer arrested your friend last week. Or maybe they raided your house a month ago and took your stash. You are angry. You see that officer later. Maybe they are on patrol. Maybe they are just sitting in their car eating lunch. And you throw a firework at them.
You aren't running away. You are attacking.
You are attacking them on account of an exercise of official power. You are attacking them because they did their job. The law treats that motivation as exceptionally dangerous because it undermines the entire justice system.
It's an attack on the institution, not just the person.
Precisely. If officers are afraid to do their jobs because someone might come back later with explosives, the rule of law collapses. So the legislature says, if you attack an officer in retaliation and you cause serious injury, that is a first-degree felony, even if you used a little consumer firework.
Wow.
The malice, that desire to punish the officer, elevates the crime to the highest tier.
It creates a special protection bubble around officers saying, do not take your grievances out on them with explosives.
It is heavy stuff. You start reading a chapter titled Fireworks, thinking about sparklers, and by the end of page 1, you are talking about life in prison. It escalates quickly.
Now we have one final section of the text to cover, subsection E, the safety net or the double jeopardy avoidance clause.
Right. The text says, if conduct constituting an offense under this section also constitutes an offense under any other law. The actor may be prosecuted under this section, the other law, or both.
Or both. That seems aggressive. Can you explain why that is necessary? I thought we had protection against double jeopardy, being tried twice for the same crime.
We do. But double jeopardy protects you from being tried twice for the same offense after an acquittal or conviction. This clause deals with what we call stacking, or avoiding the concept of merger.
Okay, lay it out.
Sometimes in law, if one crime is a lesser included offense of another, they merge. Like, you can't be convicted of robbery and theft for the same wallet. The theft is part of the robbery.
Right, that makes sense.
But here, the legislature is explicitly saying, no, this is a standalone crime. Let's say you throw a large firework at an officer. That act is unlawful use of fireworks under Chapter 50. But throwing an explosive at someone is also aggravated assault on a public servant, which is a completely different chapter of the Penal Code.
So the prosecutor doesn't have to choose. They don't have to say, well, Chapter 50 fits better, so we will use that.
Nope. They can indict you for both. They can stand in front of a jury and say, he is guilty of aggravated assault, and he is guilty of unlawful use of fireworks. They can get convictions on both counts for the same act.
Why do they need both? Isn't assault enough?
Prosecutors love options. It's about strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the jury isn't convinced on the technicalities of the assault charge. Maybe they argue the firework wasn't a deadly weapon under the definition of assault. But the Chapter 50 charge is undeniable because it specifically mentions fireworks. It gives the state more ways to secure a conviction.
It's a safety net for the prosecution.
Exactly, and in some cases, it allows for consecutive sentencing. It emphasizes that the legislature really wanted to discourage this specific behavior. They didn't want it to just get absorbed into general assault laws. They wanted a specific statute that says, fireworks plus cops, felony.
It really highlights how the legal system tries to plug every possible hole.
Mm-hmm.
They anticipate the defense saying, oh, but this merges with assault, and they write a sentence specifically to say, nice try, but no.
It's a beautifully airtight little box of a law.
So let's zoom out for a second. We have been staring at the Courier New font and dissecting legal definitions for the last hour or so.
Mm-hmm.
What does this deep dive tell us about the relationship between the public, the police, and the tools we have access to?
I think it speaks to the evolving nature of public disorder and the arms race between protesters or criminals and the state.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, maybe people threw rocks or bottles. Those are dangerous, but simple. But as fireworks became more accessible, cheaper, and more powerful, they became a tool of choice for civil unrest or just resisting arrest.
We have all seen the videos on social media, people shooting Roman candles at police cars during riots or street takeovers. It looks chaotic and, honestly, kind of cinematic. It looks like a movie.
It does, and that visual spectacle is part of the problem. It trivializes the danger. It makes it look like a video game. Chapter 50 is the state's way of piercing that illusion. It is saying, this isn't a game, this isn't a light show, this is an attack with an explosive device.
It recontextualizes the object. In your backyard on July 4th, it's a toy. In the street aimed at a cop, it's a weapon. And the law is agile enough to recognize that shift.
And notice the precision regarding intent. The law doesn't ban fireworks. It doesn't say you can't have them in your car. It focuses entirely on the moment you decide to use them against authority. It respects the right to celebrate while criminalizing the choice to obstruct.
It's a balance, and it's a balance enforced with a very heavy hammer.
A hammer that ranges from a state jail felony all the way to a first-degree felony.
Well, let's do a comprehensive recap of the journey we've been on today. We covered a lot of ground.
Sure, let's break it down one last time.
First, we define the law enforcement officer. It is a big umbrella.
Right. It covers local cops, state troopers, and notably, federal agents like the FBI and ATF. If they have a badge and are acting officially, they are protected under this Texas law.
Then we define fireworks by looking at the nested doll of legislation. Texas points to the federal DOT regulations.
Right, the 49 CFR, which ensures the definition stays up to date with technology without new state bills being passed.
Then we looked at the act itself in section 50.02. You have to explode or ignite the firework, but the crime is in the intent. You have to be trying to either interfere with their duties or flee from an arrest.
And we drilled down on the knowledge component. You have to know they are police. That protects the person running from an unidentified threat.
Then we climbed the punishment ladder. And this is the part that sticks with me.
It's steep.
Rung 1. Consumer firework plus interference fleeing, state jail felony. Minimum 6 months, day for day. Run 2. Non-consumer firework, the big stuff, equals a second-degree felony, up to 20 years. And Run 3. causing serious bodily injury or doing it out of retaliation, first-degree felony.
Which can mean life in prison, the same as murder.
And finally, the safety net. You can be charged with this and other crimes simultaneously. There is no buy one, get one free on felonies here.
It is a comprehensive, rigid, and severe piece of legislation designed to stop a specific modern behavior.
It really is. And, as we wrap up, I want to leave the listener with a final provocative thought. We often think of laws as these static, boring things written by guys in wigs 200 years ago. But this chapter 50, is a reaction. It is the government watching human behavior, seeing a new trend using fireworks against police, and writing code to patch that vulnerability in the system.
It is a cat-and-mouse game. People find new ways to evade or disrupt, and the law expands to cover those methods.
It makes you wonder, what is the next firework? What is the next everyday object that will get its own chapter in the Penal Code because someone figured out how to use it to stop a cop?
That's a great question.
Drones, high-powered laser pointers.
We already have laws touching on those. But as technology creates new toys, the Penal Code will always be chasing behind, trying to define them, regulate them, and punish their misuse.
A never-ending story printed in Courier New.
Indeed.
That is all for this deep dive into Texas Penal Code Chapter 50. We hope you learned something, hopefully something you never have to experience firsthand from the wrong side of the bars.
Please keep the fireworks for the holidays. Keep them in the backyard.
Great advice. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe. It really helps us out and lets us keep doing this research for you. Check the website for the full text of the statute if you want to read along. Until next time, stay curious and stay legal.
Goodbye.
See ya.